And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's potluck time. This is the part of the show where we go around the table, share our favorite stories of the day. Brad Hirschfield, you're our head chef.
All right. I want to talk about Lee Kuan Yew's buns.
Beg your pardon?
Can you repeat that again?
Yes, Lee Kuan Yew's buns. I said it. He's dead, the former Singaporean leader. I want to talk about his buns. Before anyone gets a little carried away here, there were actually buns baked by a big chain in Singapore called Bread Talk. They did it in tribute to their leader. In fact, they came out with a sign that said, "Thank you for your unwavering strength and dedication to transforming Singapore. Let us join hands and hearts to honor him, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew." Right? This was all done as a tribute. Sounds beautiful, right?
Yeah.
24 hours in, they all had to pull the buns. They pulled the buns because people went crazy saying it's disrespectful, it's disgusting, how it's in poor taste. People, and by the way, the profits from the sale of the buns was all going to charity in memory of their leader. So this is a really interesting moment because it turns out that what counts as patriotic, what counts as honoring a leader can be really misunderstood in different camps. And think about all the fights that happen in our own culture between people who have similar motivations, but they can't appreciate where each other are coming from. And we go immediately to pull that. That's disgusting. That's inappropriate. As opposed to saying, wow, what are you thinking? Because if it turns out you mean well, maybe your bun should stick around.
Those buns look tremendous.
Don't know what
Can we
to
put
say
those back up
about
on
this
screen?
one, you know?
Those things really, really look scrumptious. Look at
How
them.
bad does that look? And you can see on the graphic, there's the thank you addressed to him. There was no confusing it. It just turns out that in moments of stress, people get really funny about what counts as a legitimate way to honor a loved or cherished person.
That happened to me not too long ago, that I was given a business card of a Japanese businessman, and I took it and I just looked at it for a second and I put it in my pocket. And I was told later that he was very offended because you're supposed to hold it with two hands and study it, and then put it in a very safe place. And if you don't do that, then you're the biggest jerk in the world. I am a jerk, but not in that culture.
Yeah, you're not a jerk.
gotta
But
know
again, it
these
speaks to it. Yes, knowing the details of other cultures is important, but when you don't get it quite right, freaking out makes you look silly. You end up lecturing people for doing something good. The money would have gone to charity. So in their defense of their great leader, they ended up costing probably hundreds of thousands of dollars that would have gone to feed hungry kids. That's not good.
Yeah, and as Chris Kringle, you take that personally.
Oh, you're going to keep pushing
I
that
think
one, aren't you?
I think it's more interesting that Lee Kuan Yew has become a model for autocrats around the world who idolize him. People like Putin and there's a long conversation in that.
Yes, it's
that we
not
should
right.
have.
A great Democrat he wasn't, though I would say this. If Putin can pull off the level of economic
Well, that's
empowerment
what he says,
that you did,
Right.
he'll go down as a hero with all of his, semi-naked tiger wrestling. It won't matter because that's
But he
the one
won't.
thing that Lee Kuan Yew did do. Right,
He
a
did.
great Democrat, not at all. But if you look at the baseline of human life in Singapore, pre and post, no comparison.
And we'll end it on that happy note in memory of not an exemplary leader, but one that made some folks' lives better during his tenure. Kenny, you're up.
Well, following on from Brad's buns, I'm not quite sure how I do that, but
That's worse than Hughes.
for all of you who think the country's going to pot, well, it turns out Willie Nelson, that's what Willie Nelson would like to happen, and that's what he'll do if he has his way. The 81-year-old singer told the Daily Beast website that he's planning to market his own brand of weed, and it's going to be called Willie's Reserve. And in addition to this, they're going to open up shops called Willie's Reserve shops, and there'll be branded bongs. And all this is going to happen in the states where pot is legal, like Washington, I think Alaska, and Colorado. So the Daily Beast asked, what exactly is Willie's Reserve? Well, we all know that Willie Nelson is pro-legislating.
What he's carrying around in the back of the bus.
But a spokesman for Willie said that Willie wants Willie's Reserve, and I'm quoting here, to be something that's reflective of his passion. It was developed by his family, and their focus is on the environment and social issues. Now, I'm not quite sure what this has to do with the environment or social issues, but I just lay it on the table, and I guess that's why we call this segment potluck.
This
It's
is
put together.
Great word.
Fair
Nice.
trade, organic dope.
There
That's
you go.
I mean,
This is
gonna get
very, very simple. Willie Nelson can do no wrong. Period.
Well, he's
Says-
right in the sense where this will make money.
Oh, I'm sure.
This will make a. He had a perfect alliterative moment, though. It could have just been Willie's weed, and everybody would have accepted.
Yeah.
This sounds like when you drink like Maker's Mark 46. It's Maker's 46. It's a reserve. Oh, this must be Willie's good pot.
Yeah.
Like not the
Right.
kind from a shed,
right.
but from the
The very
greenhouse
best.
behind the shed.
Right.
In a serious part of the story, they did make the point that he is using his name and his brand to get out ahead of all the big companies that are definitely going to do the same thing.
Brilliant.
And
There's
then
no
everybody's
question
going to
it's
do
a
it.
huge
Brilliant.
business
And
that's
it's
going to
gonna-
emerge.
He
It's
can
huge.
pay the IRS some of the money.
It's going to
a
spread
wonderful
to
thing.
other states. It's going to be huge
But
business.
remember, always tell your mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Boy, we are a long way from
But dope
Paul.
growers, yes.
We're a long way from Paul Newman's own, huh?
Oh,
What did
yeah.
he make? What was that?
Spaghetti
Everything.
sauce?
Spaghetti
Popcorn?
sauce,
Salad dressing,
Oreos,
right?
salad
It's a
dressing.
different world. Anyway,
Yeah.
quick break, more potluck when we come back. The Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. I'm your host, Joe Concha. If you're just joining us, we're in the middle of our potluck, where we're sharing our favorite stories of the day. And I'm sorry, Rick. No, I'm up. I'm up. Thank you.
Who's up? Who's
I
up?
was thinking of acquiescing, but
Who's
what the
on
hell?
second? Who's on first?
I'll
Go.
take it. That's fine. Anyway, the NFL's reign of terror is over. What am I talking about? Talking about a blackout rule that has existed in the NFL since 1973. What is the blackout rule? Basically, NFL teams, home teams, had to sell out their games entirely, or else the city and region, for that matter, where that team is playing, all the fans can't see the game. It gets blacked out and they're showing some other game that they don't care about. And this has gone on now for nearly about 40 years, 42 years. And it's just amazing, given how much ticket sales are and how much people are struggling. We talked yesterday how Americans are going paycheck to paycheck. They barely have any money saved. You want to go to an NFL game, a Giant game for that matter, for instance, you're bringing, let's say, your family of 4. It's a $700 day.
yeah, easily.
By the time you
Easily.
get, and that's if you're in the upper deck.
Right.
To park, it costs $35. And the NFL also insists now on more later games. You didn't have a Sunday night game before. That exists. Monday night games are they purposely having in cold weather cities, so there's snow. And finally, they fessed up and said, okay, we will allow teams that don't sell out their cities, or even if you lived in the region, 100 miles away from the stadium, but you were like a New England Patriots fan, you lived in New Hampshire, you couldn't watch the game. And finally, they came to their senses and said, you know what? Ticket sales aren't as important as the revenue we're getting from television, so let's forgive the rule. Brad, you're a Bears fan.
Yeah, I grew up in the bad years of the Bears and didn't get to see those games because who wanted to go to Soldier Field?
Avellini
20
years?
below. Yeah, it was terrible. It was tragic. So you'd sit at home, and we had seasons tickets for some of those years, so we were part of the problem. But who wanted to go? You couldn't see the games. Look, I think what you said is the key. Ticket sales are not what they once used to be. And the other piece of it is, I think they understood that punishing people for not going to see underperforming teams was not going to exactly build support. So what you're going to have to do is build support for the team and let that drive sales as opposed to the other way around.
I always wondered, Ken, if the blackout actually compelled enough. I mean, it kind of worked, but imagine like, oh my God, my friend won't be able to watch the game at home. I better go spend $700 on some tickets.
Well, I lived in Boston in the 1980s when the Patriots were really a bad team. They didn't sell out. They were blacked out a lot of the time. However, the local TV station that was an NBC affiliate used to actually buy tickets to fill it out so they could
I
get
never
the
heard
rights.
that.
Interesting.
Which,
Chicago didn't do
and
that.
thinking of that, I'm reminded now of all these Sunday afternoon pay-per-view things that DirecTV has and other carriers. So I mean, you can get around the blackout if you're willing to pay
Yeah.
a subscription fee
The NFL Sunday
to
ticket.
get the out of town, the Sunday ticket.
it's only
Exactly.
$500.
That's a fortune, too.
But at least
But
you're
when
getting
you
all the
say
games.
it's only $500, how much did you say it was to go to the stadium?
Yeah, it's a little bit more, and that's only one game. But very good point.
It's a
I didn't know
wonderful
that about
thing.
Boston, the NBC affiliate. Anyway,
It's a wonderful thing.
Okay, good. That
about
was nice
time.
and pithy, and that gives you room for your potluck, which is probably the best of the night.
So, for those who don't know, and I promise you that when I'm done filling in, you'll wish you still didn't know. This today is National Vote-A-Rama Day in the United States Senate. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is Vote-A-Rama Day in the U.S. Senate? This is a real thing. Every year, the budget comes along to the Senate, and they use this as an opportunity to bring up every possible amendment that has no chance to ever pass, but is designed to embarrass the people in the opposition party. So, for instance, today, and this will go on roughly till 2 o'clock in the morning, tomorrow morning, because there'll be roughly 100 amendments that they have to vote on. Republicans will be required to go on the record against giving minimum wage increases. They're also going to have to go on the record voting against a proposal to give pregnant women protection against discrimination. Why? Because there was something else put in the amendment they can't vote for. Democrats are going to have to cast votes that will make it look like they do not support Israel. All sorts of these things, and it all happens on Budget Vote-A-Rama Day. What's the purpose? The only purpose is to create a record that when you start seeing political ads next year, you'll see people being attacked for having cast these votes. This is what your taxpayer money is going for. To pay senators to operate the United States Senate for this one whole day, and by the way, they're not there very often, where they do nothing but create a scenario to do negative ads for their opponents.
I would just like to say I think it's a wonderful day because at least they're not doing any damage.
They're not doing damage.
Okay. A do no harm
Except
approach.
each other.
To the extent that it's true, and you're right, Rick, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's a problem. But I blame we the people as much as them the politicians.
Absolutely. It's always
when
us.
we're ready to say to these guys, we're done with those kind of gotcha ads that come from your gotcha politics. And even if we agree with how you voted on Vote-A-Rama, that's not good enough. Because while you were voting correctly on Vote-A-Rama, you were wasting our time and our money.
And by the way, during these ads, the black and white doesn't make anybody any more evil, does it?
No,
I mean,
it's
really?
all
Can we
stupid.
stop at that? It's always slow motion. It's funny. Anyway, that's all the time we have for our potluck. But when we come back, it's time for Yay or Nay. This is the Daily Wrap, only on Newsmax TV.